You know, I feel kind of bad because I thought I was kind of looking sort of edgy here. You know, I got my collage back there with all that crazy stuff. I got my fucking plushy skeleton. I got my fucking battle helmet with my fucking red eye drawn on it. I got my fucking makeup done. Got my little beard braids and my tie-dye shirt and my wacky chair, you know, and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, wow, cool, you know, feeling like pretty edgy there. But then I fucking saw this guy, you know, a guy I used to watch all the time back in the DP days. And, you know, seeing, you know, even before that, I think I used to cover his videos occasionally. I didn't even know he was still doing this stuff, but he is. And unfortunately, it's looking like he's somehow become even edgier than me, man. Look at this shit. I can't believe this. Yeah, fucking Wild Bill for America is looking edgier than my ass, you know? He's got the fucking cowboy hat. He's looking terrible. I mean, his appearance is haggard. You know, he's starting to get the ghoul flesh. Sunken eyes, beady little fucking hate-filled eyes, you know? Got the bandana. He's got the black leather vest. Got to make sure to park his motorcycle back there so you can see what a badass he is. It says Black Robe Regiment on it. That doesn't sound good, does it? Does that sound good to anybody? When you hear about the Black Robe Regiment, I don't know. It sounds like something untoward is probably going on there. You know, I don't know. So, I mean, this dude, he's edgelording it up even more than me. I feel like I need to play catch up. But, yeah, we're looking at Ghost Rider's fucking nemesis, dude. That edgy red cross, you know. Yeah, they sound friendly. I sure hope that I get to meet the Black Robe Regiment really soon. That sounds really friendly and kind. I'm sure that they preach compassion and love for their fellow man. Hey, if you like this clip, you might like the full stream, which I do every Sunday, more or less, over on the Pessimist Productions Patreon, link down below. Thank you kindly. All right, this is a video called The Curse of Atheism. And let's see what Wild Bill is doing these days. Let's see if his external energy matches his edgy persona. Nope, he's still... Why is he still putting that... Wild Bill, your appearance has undergone a radical transformation, so you need to change up the music. Like, when I see this, I expect some kind of hard rock going in the background, not this same... You know, I want to hear some...
Atheism, the declaration that God does not exist, is an act of pure evil that does no one any good.
I mean, atheism is not really the declaration that God doesn't exist. It's the personal position that a person doesn't believe in God. There's a big difference between a bold-faced declaration of God does not exist, and I know that for a fact, versus I don't believe in God.
And it opens the door to every form of perversion, violence, and crime. If there is no God, no supreme judge of the universe, then anything man chooses to do to others is allowed.
This is kind of rich coming from the Black Robe Regiment, I have to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure, it's kind of weird that he shows like a Klansman with a noose, because I'm pretty sure the Klan are not atheist. I'm pretty sure the Klan has always been a God-bothering, God-fearing organization. So this is kind of a strange thing to show. Like, you should show Stalin or something, because at least there was antagonism towards religion from, you know, communist regimes. That's why that's typically the example shown. Still silly, but at least it makes somewhat sense. Showing the KKK, I mean, they were never an atheistic organization. They were never secular in nature.
The greatest restraint on evil in the USA has always been the universal teaching that God reigns in heaven above, and that he has set a day when every man who has ever lived will stand before him and give account for every word and deed in this life.
It's going to take a while, man. That line, I mean, to get into heaven, that's going to be a bitch. You know, because, I mean, you got to account for every word, every deed. I mean, that's going to take a while. You got to go through your whole life. I mean, you're going to be waiting in line to get in heaven for a fucking long time. I hope it's worth it.
And on that day, every man will receive either eternal reward,
But not women. All women, right to hell. But every man, you know.
or eternal damnation for their deeds.
Cool.
The knowledge that Judgment Day is coming steered the USA into being one nation under God. Historians in the 18th century...
And we never did any atrocities back then. You know? Genocide of the Native Americans? They were heathens. Enslavement of black people? They're savages. You know? You know, who cares? I mean, war with each other. Civil War, for fuck's sake. Trail of Tears. I mean, this whole country was founded on bloodshed, right? So, I mean, the idea that the history of the United States was devoid of violence and atrocity until this wild-eyed concept of atheism came along is just a bunch of silly bullshit that doesn't match with history whatsoever.
Marveled that American culture was so strongly married to the Christian church. Even the worst scoundrels in early America knew the 10 Commandments.
I mean, I know the 10 Commandments. I think I do. Let's see. Let's see if I can get them all. So, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not bear false witness. That's 5. Honor thy father and mother. No graven images of God or whatever the fuck. Got 3 more here. I told you guys not to help me, but yeah, name in vain is one of them. But I didn't get that. I would have got it eventually, but I told you not to help me. You guys are just doing it for me anyway. You guys don't listen. See, that's the problem with you atheists. You don't follow the rules. You just think you can break that shit. But anyway, yeah, the chat already spoiled it for me, so we'll never know if I would have got the other 3 on my own. Don't be vain or whatever the fuck. And oh, Krista deleted them, so now I can't even reference them. No other gods before me, and remember the Sabbath. It doesn't matter at this point, Krista. I already saw them. Yeah, no other gods before me. That's probably the one that I would have the most trouble with. Remember the Sabbath too. That's kind of a lame one. But yeah, I knew 7, and I knew the big ones, right? Like don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat, don't whatever. Yeah. Which, by the way, Christianity didn't exactly come up with that shit. It's not like up until the 10 Commandments, people thought murdering and stealing were fine. There were existing codes of human conduct that already prohibited those behaviors. In fact, those behaviors are proscribed in every human society. There's no society on earth where murder and stealing and rape and shit are wrong. Although I guess there's no commandment against adultery, I guess. But, you know, that doesn't really apply unless you're married. Maybe coveting? Covet my neighbor's ass.
Because they were taught in every public school for over 230 years. But evil...
I don't even think... Do we even have a public school system for 230 years? Like, early America didn't have a public school system funded by the federal government, I don't think. I don't even know when was the Department of Education actually established? Cabinet level department began operating in 1980. That's even later. I thought it was going to be like 1875 or something. No, 1980. Department of Education was 5 years before I was born. Now, that doesn't mean there wasn't public education prior to that. But, you know, like, we did not have 230 years of formalized federal government-sponsored public education. So this is another ahistorical tidbit from Mild Bill here.
Does not sleep. Satan...
And then the Code of Hammurabi predates the 10 Commandments by 6,000 years. Yeah, and doesn't that prohibit murder too? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Never stops working to destroy everything good that God has created. Satan, working through godless men and women in the 1960s, managed to force the USA to abandon its Christian heritage.
Which they could not have done unless God permitted, right? Because even if Satan uses all his might and all his power to remove God from the schools, If God decides, no, I will not allow that, Satan can't possibly do it. I mean, this is the problem with this whole all-powerful God thing. Because, like, if God really took issue, he could prevent it himself.
By taking prayer and the Bible out of schools and launch...
Which neither of those things happen, by the way. You're allowed to pray in schools. They're simply not allowed to mandate prayer, which is a good thing because not everyone in this country is a Christian. And you're not allowed to mandate reading from the Bible or teaching the Bible in schools. But schools across America have Bible clubs, and kids are perfectly allowed to pray of their own volition on their own time. So if you are a Christian school kid going to school in America, there is nothing preventing you from bowing your head and clasping your hands in prayer. That is not against the rules, never has been, never will be.
Launching pornography, fornication, and drug use at every level of society.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was just technology that did that. Like, pornography has existed for a very long time. What didn't exist for a very long time was a means of mass manufacturing and mass distributing it, which now we have. But yeah, the second you create that tool, that pornography is going to spread. As for drugs, I mean, people have always done drugs. In fact, in a lot of ways, this was once a much more drug-permissive country than it is now. I mean, most drugs are still illegal. Back in the day, there was much less regulation on drugs, and people could pretty much do it at their leisure. I mean, it used to be very commonplace for men to get drunk at work because a lot of men worked in horrible factory conditions and stuff, and being a little fucking tipsy was actually kind of made the job more tolerable. So it was actually kind of encouraged. Plus, the process of turning water into beer made the water much safer to drink because there was a disinfectant quality to that alcohol.
The Democrat Party gleefully adopted godlessness as the foundation for all of its political agendas.
Well, that's not true. I mean, you listen to Joe Biden into speech, it's always God bless America, God bless America. I mean, it's reflexive, and Kamala has continued the tradition. Every speech, God bless America, God bless America. So, I mean, the idea that the Democratic Party is not a bunch of God-bothering morons themselves is silly. They just practice a different form of Christianity than the one you prefer. And really, the Democratic Party's idea of Christianity in many ways is more similar to biblical Christianity than Republican Christianity is. I mean, Republicans stan billionaires and, millionaires. I mean, the Democrats do too, but Republicans definitely stan them a lot harder. And the Bible doesn't praise millionaires and billionaires. It says that they are horrible people and that it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for one of those pieces of shit to enter the kingdom of heaven. Jesus Christ said, give away all your earthly possessions and wander the earth. That's not the Republican ethos. Republicans are one of the most staunchly anti-immigration parties ever. And the Democrats of course, have moved really far right on this issue in recent times. But the Bible does not say, oh, fuck immigrants, we hate immigrants. The Bible says to welcome strangers into your land and not to hate the foreigners. So this is really neither of the party's ideas of Christianity bear much resemblance to biblical Christianity. You read the Sermon on the Mount, it has nothing to do with the kind of Christianity that's practiced today. I think that's what the point of that whole A Perfect Circle song was. The Doomed, where they talk about the new Beatitudes, and it's just like, blessed are the slothful, the wrathful, the vain, because that's really the Christianity of modern America. This idea of being, humble and charitable and righteous and forgiving is not at all in the ethos of most modern Christianity. I'm not saying it's totally devoid of all modern Christians. I've definitely met Christians who do actually embody some of those values, but it seems like, especially when you get into like the political iterations of Christianity, it's very against the teachings of Christ for the most part.
We now have a propaganda media that Adolf Hitler would be proud of. Racism.
I'm surprised that this guy still uses Adolf Hitler's name as a pejorative, given how cozy the right has become with Hitler's ideals.
Manufactured by the Democrat Party has poisoned every part of America. And the rise of the rainbow flag shows that the USA has hit rock bottom.
Really? That's what shows that we've hit rock bottom? It's not, people living a paycheck to paycheck. It's not, child poverty. It's not squalor and dilapidation and misery and financial hardship and, people going into ridiculous mountains of medical debt for procedures that are necessary and life-saving. It's not any of that stuff. What it really is, at the end of the day, is gay people. That's the real sign that we've hit rock bottom. I mean, this guy's a fucking joke, man.
Morally, ethically, and spiritually.
That's coming from this.
And because of rampant national sins, the USA is now
then again, he's just as costumed up as I am.
Experiencing the heavy hand of divine judgment. John Calvin said, when God wants to judge a nation, he gives them wicked rulers. And that is exactly where
we elected our own rulers here. So we can't blame God for our wicked rulers. I think it's all on us, man.
We are today. Atheists, the enemies of God, have taken over every major institution.
Not true. Atheists are a very small percent of the population. I think, if you're going by people who identify as atheists, I think that's somewhere in the realm of 5%. People who identify as non-religious, I think it's a little bit broader than that. I think actually atheists even smaller. It might be like 3%. People who say they're non-religious in general, I think that might be like 10, 15%, depending on the poll you look at. But not all of those identify as atheists. And in fact, some of the people who identify as atheists, strangely enough, do believe in some form of higher power. So who fucking knows? That's the problem with self-identification. But the majority of people in this country believe in some form of God, predominantly the Christian God, although there are so many different iterations of Christianity that's really not as uniform as you might initially believe. But most people believe in some form of higher power, usually with some sort of Christian tinge in this country. And that's represented institutionally as well. Throughout our institutions, there are people of faith. Atheists have not taken over this country. There might be some atheists in higher positions of power, but as of yet, we have not had even one avowed atheist president. Every single person that has ever run for the highest office in this land has espoused some form of Christianity. We've never even had a Muslim president or a Hindu president or, a Jainist president or whatever the hell. We haven't even had like sort of a non-denominational president. Now, in the early days of America, you could argue that some of the very earliest presidents were like deistic and stuff like that, but that was played a lot closer to the chest back in those days, so it's kind of hard to say.
The top two sins of this nation are the killing of unborn children and Sodom and Gomorrah homosexuality. And
it's so weird that modern-day Christians are so hyper-focused on those two issues of all things, because Jesus Christ never said anything about that. Like, think about this. You call yourselves Christians. That's derived from Christ, which is Jesus Christ. And he never said anything about abortion. He never said anything about homosexuality. Most of what he said was about forgiveness and charity and, giving to the poor and helping your fellow man and being humble and compassionate and devoted to righteousness. There was, he didn't let thee who is without sin cast the first stone, judge not lest ye be judged, that kind of stuff. I mean, that wasn't all. He did say some brimstone shit every now and then, but there's no verse you can point to where Jesus is like, I hate gays. There's no verse you can point to where Jesus is like, I'm against abortion. And abortion did exist back then. There is actually a reference to abortion in the Bible. where it talks about the bitter waters being given to a pregnant woman who is suspected of cheating. And if she is impure, then the baby will be terminated by the bitter waters. And that's the only reference to abortion in the Bible, and it's not condemnatory. It's actually positive towards the bitter waters. It's pro-bitter waters, which is, of course, an abortion drug. As for gay people, I mean, there's that Leviticus verse that's probably the most explicitly condemnatory verse about gay people in the Bible, homosexual men at least. And it's in a book that's literally riddled with stuff that no Christian alive today follows. Don't plant two different crops in the same furrow. Don't mix fabrics. Don't create polyester, basically. Don't eat shellfish. I mean, no one follows that shit. So why, of all the things in that book that are just thrown out and ignored like that's nonsense, why that one thing, like, oh yeah, this is the one we'll keep? I mean, there's a few other verses that may be condemnatory of homosexuality in the Bible, but they're few and far in between, and none of them come from Jesus. So it's very weird that that is such an intense hyper focus of modern day Christians.
What a coincidence. Those two sins are the top two priorities of the Democrat Party.
Are they? I don't really feel like abortion at least is a hot button political issue. They definitely try to get some political hay out of that. As for gay stuff, I mean, yeah, it's on their agenda, but it seems like it's about 10 or 15 spots down. I mean, if you watch the DNC, the majority of what was being pushed at the Democratic National Convention was Trump bad, and some economic policies that are sort of, you know, nominally populist, like lib-left policies, and pro-cop, pro-soldier, and that was the main thrust of it. There was not much gay stuff. There was a little bit, and there was some abortion. There was some abortion stuff, but it seemed like it was 5th or 6th on the agenda. But I don't know. I guess that if I'm looking at it through the crazy lens of like some right-wing crypto-fascist Christ puncher, then maybe I'm gonna feel differently about it.
If you are indeed a Christian man or woman, then you must walk away from the Democrat Party.
Oh, yeah,
you cannot serve both God and the devil.
Okay.
And if you don't like the Republican Party, then do what I did. Join the Constitution Party.
Yeah, do that. Yeah, join the Constitution Party. Have at it. Get it going. Just a few more years, that Constitution Party gonna be viable as fuck, yo.
The number 3 party in America, and the
no. No. How did you come to that conclusion? The number 3 party in America is far and away the Libertarian Party. The number 4 party in America is easily the Green Party. And I don't even know if the Constitution Party is 5th or 6th or whatever, but it ain't in the fucking conversation. Like, what are you fucking smoking? What flavor of crack has led you to that conclusion, sir?
only political party that still respects the Christian heritage of the USA.
That's great, man.
If you agree with this message, then please go to wildbillforamerica.com.
No thanks. I mean, you guys, if you want to go, knock yourselves out, have fun. I'm sure you'll have a grand old time, but, you know, not for me, man. Thanks, Wild Bill. I missed you, man. It's nice seeing you again. I'm glad you're still out there doing your shtick, dude. I hope the Constitution Party wins the presidency real soon. I'm sure you'll see it in your lifetime, man. It's going to be beautiful. Okay, so I found some information on the Constitution Party. As of October 2020, so a few years, this information is a few years old, it is the 5th largest political party in the United States based on voter registration. So it's pretty much like I know for a fact the Libertarian Party is 3rd, and I'm about 95% sure Green is 4th. So Democrats are the largest party. Republicans are the 2nd largest party. Then the Libertarians, then the Greens, then the Constitution Party. So it is not the 3rd largest party. I don't know where Wild Bill derived that conclusion from. I think he pulled it firmly out of his wild ass.
a man.